Hey everyone, it's Eric and Luke back with PrimeTime Sports, PrimeTime Edition for Monday, September 20th. Call your sons, call your daughters, call your friends, call your neighbors. The Bears won a ball game, Luke.
Yeah, I know. It's about time, huh?
How about it?
Um,
It's been,
so
since last year.
yeah. Well, I mean, it took them 2 weeks, so it's not like it was forever.
That's
But
true.
it was it was a good win yesterday. So we'll definitely dive into that. I would say it was on the weekend, but Eric, I want to ask you, how was your current weekend? Because this is your weekend. Monday is your weekend now.
It is. It
So
is. So the traditional weekend, as you know, Luke, goes out the window when you're in an SID position, and
how was your current weekend?
so I was definitely at the field both Saturday and Sunday, and then cranking out website stuff, getting updates, stats, you name it. So it was nice to kind of take a little breather today. I did have to do some like knack voting responsibilities and all that, nominations and voting, and then a couple updates, but just kind of unplugged for today, and then I'll be back at it tomorrow. So it was kind of cool though. I did go see a movie. I kind of like, you know me, I love movies, and usually when I go, it's on a weekend anyways, and I'll do the matinee. So me going to a Monday matinee, that's just like natural. So that fits. So yeah, I went and saw the movie Cop Shop, which is very cool. It's very, very exciting movie, very action packed. Some nice twists in it as well. But yeah, it was nice to unwind for sure, because it's been it's been a couple week intro and then some into Sid life, and it's more to come for sure.
Yep, I like Sid life. I like the way you coined the phrase there.
Yeah, yeah.
But at least you came home yesterday and you had a good Bear game to go through.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I wound up doing. I came home, I had a little dinner, popped on the TV, and then caught like the rest of the first half of the Ravens and Chiefs game. And then when halftime came up, I switched over to then just watching the Bears game. So I missed the exciting conclusion to that Sunday night game, which looked great. But I needed to watch the Bears game, and it actually kind of felt good, even though knowing the outcome, to slow down and watch it, other than speed up for the commercials, to watch everything. I feel I'm in a much better place to talk about it today than if I just did the Twitter follow and saw a few highlights. So I have a lot more context, and so I was glad to do that. But before we dive into that, because we are going to dive heavy Bears like we do, and then we're going to dive into some White Sox again. That'll kind of be our MO until some of the other teams start picking up slack. We're probably not going to be much Cubs talk from here on out unless something happens by the end of the year. And then when Bulls and Blackhawks season comes around, we'll start diving in that. But for right now, it's going to be Bears and White Sox, because that's really the only major things that are happening in town. But before I do that, Luke, let me try this, see if it works this time. And if it doesn't, I don't know what's going on here. Try this again. All right, there we go.
Oh, you got the feed. I love it.
Yeah, yes. So my question to you was, you do remember that we do have a show on Monday nights at 6:30 to talk about all these things, right? Or you just had to get these off your chest?
Honestly, it's more or less like a notepad for me at this point.
Okay.
Honestly,
Okay.
that's kind of – I actually have that pulled up on my seat off to the side here to like help me remember some talking points from the game.
Very good. Very good.
That's honestly part of the reason why we have those threads. And then the stats one was just me nerding out a little bit.
Yeah, you like doing that. And you threw me a bone with Darth Vildor.
Yeah.
So that was most impressive. I like that. That was very good. No, that's good stuff. I'm waiting then for like Luke's mailbag to be next. You're like the Brad Bitter. But let's dive into the topic du jour, and we'll get on with the Bears. The Bears win a ball game. And the question I posed to you, Luke, do you think it was a must win, or what is such a thing a must win on a season where many of us aren't predicting the Bears to go to the playoffs?
I mean, that's my point I want to make there is kind of what you said at the end there. A must win for what? Like,
Right.
what are we winning for at this point? Do we think must win, or they're not going to have a chance to win the Super Bowl? Well, they didn't have a chance to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you thought the Bears at least had a chance to get into the playoffs, not saying they'd go to the Super Bowl or conference final or anything like that, but do you think, and it's a short sample size, that they have a team that could compete to get at least a wild card spot or something like that? How do you feel about the Bears at this point?
I mean, I guess my answer then was it a must win? Is it probably not? I mean,
Okay.
I think it was something you probably, obviously you want to win every game and you should protect home field and all that. But I still think that this team is kind of an unfinished product because, well, maybe the transition happened. We'll get into that. But it was kind of an unfinished product for me until Justin Fields took over the starting role. So,
Well, do you think if the Bears do beat the Browns 99-2, as Ryan Fahey says, then do you think they're on their way? So
if they won a game 99-2, I would be pretty upset that Fields took a safety in the end zone there. But if that happened,
that's true. That's true.
But
or maybe
I'm
it
sure
wasn't
that
their
also,
emergency quarterback. It was David Montgomery who took the safety. You never know.
I'm sure that would be a scoregami on
Yeah.
Twitter. That would 99-2. I don't think that's happened in the NFL before.
Right.
But I mean, I always think those questions are kind of really cliched, or like that. Oh, this is a must-win game. I feel like it's kind of just like kind of cliche talk. A lot of times when people say that, especially this early in the season. But I do think it was important for the sake of some momentum because if you win 0-2 heading into Cleveland, there would be a whole lot of public backlash and criticism that would be flooding the gates of Hallis Hall. So I think for their psyche, it was probably very important for them to get that game. From a mathematical standings perspective and like just an overall general, what's your viewpoint of the Bears' perspective? I wouldn't say it was like a must-win or anything, just because I don't know what their ceiling is or if it's high enough for a must-win term to even be a thing.
Well, so right, must win in terms of making the playoffs, not making the playoffs, way too early to say that. I think where it could be or could have been a must win situation, and now the point is moot because they won. The tenure of Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. I am not of the mindset that their return next year is a given. And I am not of the mindset that their return as a pair is a given. I could see a scenario where Pace is let go and Nagy's there, and unfortunately, like the new GM has to cobble along with Matt Nagy for a season, and then he gets to pick his own guy. But let's say the Bears lose that game yesterday, and then they go to Cleveland, they're 0-3, and then maybe they beat Detroit at home, unless they get their kneecaps bitten off by the mighty Lions. But their schedule, it's road home, road home, road home. So they can't build a whole lot of home momentum. They don't play particularly well on the road under the Matt Nagy era. So there's some challenges there that lie ahead, and it's not an easy schedule too. So if they're off to a 1-5 start, 2-6, something like that, it has the potential to just be a boulder rolling down the hill that it can't save Matt Nagy's job. It can't save Ryan Pace's job. So maybe not a must win, but something like the term you used, building some momentum. All right, so now they're back to even. Where does it go from here? Yeah, but they'll probably lose to Cleveland next week, but then they have a chance to beat the Lions and then be 2-2 in the first 4. That's probably the best they can ask for. But if they were 1-3 or 0-4, that's a different story.
Yeah, and we'll get to that Browns game at the end of the segment here. But I don't think they're going to win. But I actually think they got a good matchup here this week.
Yeah.
I think they match up pretty well with Cleveland, and Cleveland's weak strengths don't exactly align with the Bears' weaknesses. So, but it'll be an interesting game. But no, I'm starting to agree with you a little bit more and more. I think with some of the noise we're starting to hear out of Hallis Hall is the the disconnect between upstairs and downstairs as whether or not Fields it should be playing. I know that started to kind of matriculate during the week this week.
Right.
That makes me think that maybe their jobs really aren't safe.
Right.
And I think maybe part of Matt Nagy's I'm sure if you were to inject some truth serum into him, he would tell you that part of this slow play with Justin Fields is Nagy knows as soon as Fields gets in there, his clock begins to tick.
Right.
So I wonder if that's part of that whole equation here. But he may not have a choice now with the injury, so we'll see about that. But
right, could make it moot. The other thing with that, though, and like you said, some of this noise, or is it Pace made a commitment to Dalton for him to be the starter, so Nagy is like pulling back and letting him honor that until the point at which he has to put in Fields because Dalton isn't performing or Dalton's injured. Well, now here's Dalton's injured. So, maybe that goes by the wayside here. So I'm not necessarily sure because Ryan Pace's job is also attached to Justin Fields as well. It's not attached to Andy Dalton. So if he's holding on tight that he made a commitment to Dalton and Nagy should honor that just because of that and how that might affect future free agency, he may not be around next year to worry about free agents. So he needs to put, he should be in favor of whoever gives the Bears the best chance to win. Real quick, Aaron, I don't think it's playoff or bust to keep their jobs. Like if they finish, a game under 500 or something like that, maybe they're still going to be there. But that's open for debate. I don't think they have to make the playoffs to save their jobs, or at least not Matt Nagy. But if they're woefully underperforming and well under 500, then I think they're both cast aside.
I think to answer Aaron's question, I think the only thing that matters is one thing, and that's the growth and performance of Justin Fields. I think that's the only thing that matters for those two guys. Honestly,
both of them? How does Justin Fields' development affect Ryan Pace?
It's his draft pick. He mortgaged the future again to go get his guy.
But that's my point. He mortgaged the future again to get his guy. So even if he develops during this season, what does he put around Justin Fields? Or on the defensive side of the ball?
I think we both know. I think we know the answer to that, and that's probably not anything impressive.
Right.
But that's how the Bears are going. That's how George McCaskey's going to look at it. He's going to look at it. I'm not so
sure about that. That's where I think there's this divide between Pace and Nagy. If Justin Fields develops this season, I think Nagy's going to get the credit, not so much Ryan Pace. And so if Fields develops, but then they have a poor record and there's definitely holes on the team, I think that's where Pace can be exposed.
I think Georgie Porgy up there is, Mr. Sunshine and Rainbows, and it's probably going to be like, well, this guy got us our franchise quarterback. I can't let him go. So I kind of plus there's a thing at play where we don't know if they got extended. We still don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Have no idea. So
maybe George will talk to some more fans in the parking lot or wherever he's at there. Well, Aaron here. I expect to see Montgomery against the Browns, especially if Field starts having them both. All right, Aaron, you would think that Matt Nagy would do such a thing, but you've also seen 4 years of Matt Nagy enough to know what he should do and what he actually does are two different things. So I'm glad you brought that up because I don't have confidence that he's going to tailor the offense to fit Justin Fields' skill set and what would make him better. Now, if Bill Lazor was calling the plays, I do, but that's not what the play collector does. It's like, wow, let me dazzle you with my scheme and my offense and my play calling, and running the ball. It just isn't something that he wants to do on a consistent basis.
I feel like for Matt Nagy, and really there's a lot of NFL coaches that this applies to, but Matt Nagy is definitely one of them. There needs to be a flow chart made where it's like, is this logical? Yes, no. And if it says yes, then the arrow needs to be like, do the exact opposite thing.
Yeah.
And that's NFL coaching. Like I feel like right. A lot of times you'll be watching a game and be like, why the heck aren't they doing this?
Well, Matt Nagy's flow chart would be, is this logical? Yes. Yes. There wouldn't be a no. They'd both be yes, and then he'd just go ahead and do it because he's got to be you, baby. You know.
But yeah, great. Yeah, Aaron, no point in faith in Nagy put an offensive package in to fit the strengths of Fields. I think, I think this is going to be the week that kind of shows that, right? I think I can understand to an extent, I can understand why when Andy Dalton left the game and Fields came in, they ran more of a pocket passer type offense in the third and fourth quarters because that's what the game plan for all week. So I do understand that to a degree. I think you probably could have done a little more rollout stuff like that. But I think if Justin Fields is out there versus Cleveland, I think now we're going to really see, all right, can Matt Nagy tailor a game plan to fit the franchise quarterback?
Right.
It took them 2.5 years to do that with Mitch Trubisky. He didn't do it until the second half of last season.
Yeah, and again, that was Bill Lazor calling the plays.
Yeah, as far as we know. So,
right.
So I think we're going to find that out this week. Does Matt Nagy earn any sort of confidence or faith from Bear fans that he hasn't had since 2018 with what this offense looks like if it is Justin Fields under center in Cleveland?
Right, and that brings us to the next question: is Fields on the field? Should Dalton get his job back? So first of all, do you subscribe to the theory that Dalton is definitely out for this coming Sunday's game? Based on what you know, at least today.
I'm going to say yes. I think he's going to be out because I think – did you see the whole press conference semantics today with
him and Bigsy?
Then first of all, Brad Biggs, that's not a scheme issue.
That's personnel, yeah. Sure it is, Brad.
But I think he wouldn't have been so non-committal to things if Dalton wasn't going to play, or if Dalton was going to play. I think the fact that he was so like, well, we'll see, I don't know. I think he's trying to dance around the question without kind of throwing Dalton under the bus by saying, I'm going to play my quarterback that we drafted.
So you think as of today, Matt Nagy already knows that Dalton's probably out for next Sunday?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
I think unless Andy Dalton is 100%, he is not playing.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think he sees, and I think the organization sees an opportunity to play Fields. Now, of course, should Dalton get his job back? I think the answer to that question is no. And that has nothing to do with Andy Dalton person. Like,
right.
Andy Dalton played great in the first.
Yeah,
he did. And I put this in my long Twitter thread. It is very clear to see through two games, we bashed the move. I still don't like the move for the money it was, but it is very clear to see now that, to me, Andy Dalton is an upgrade over both Foles and Trubisky. Like that's clear. Like that is. Yeah. There's no debating that at this point to me.
That's not a high bar, though, but I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, I was going to say, Tony checking in. Tony, appreciate you checking in. Better to watch primetime sports while drinking a beer. So I do agree with that. We become that much more entertaining. So for sure.
Yeah. Nothing like primetime and beers and White Sox baseball.
Yeah. Where does he say he's at? He's at Alter Brewing in St. Charles. Okay. Hopefully you're getting some good food too. That's good stuff.
But I think it wouldn't be wise to play the kid and then take him out. Yeah. I think if you're going to him, you're going to him. And I think that's what it should be. But of course, again, this is the Bears. This is Matt Nagy. So I totally see a scenario where Justin Fields plays a game or two, depending on how long this bone bruise is. And if he doesn't blow the doors off it, then they go back to Dalton. I totally can see a scenario with that happening, which would be stupid.
Right.
But
because
again,
they're the Bears.
This is the Bears.
Right.
This is Matt Nagy. So I am mentally prepared for that to happen. Like I am mentally preparing myself for that to occur. And so I'm not so mad when it does happen.
Yeah, so he's going to face Cleveland, then he'll face Detroit. But like I said, if they're 2-2 at the end of those 4 games, and Justin Fields is piloting the last 2 games, and then Dalton is ready to go, let's say in week 5, I don't think that's cause to take Fields out though, because how is he going to grow then? All right, great, you played 2 games and a half of another, and then we're going to let you sit out while Dalton fuddles around here for the next 3 games or so, and then we figure it out from there, or he gets injured again. So I just don't see how that's good for his development. So if he's going to be starting the next 2 games, and I think we're in agreement, Dalton, there's no way Dalton should go back in. But I feel it's a very Bearsy thing to do, that say, okay, yeah, he showed some progress, still got to work on some things, and Andy can't lose his job due to injury. Like, what? This is the NFL. That happens all the time.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with Aaron's last post there. Aaron, I had the same exact injury as you in high school. I tore my MCL and had a bone bruise. I had the same thing. It took months. It took months for my knee to feel fully healed. Now Dalton doesn't have the MCL, he just has the bruise.
Yeah.
But the bruise is probably the worst part of that. It's definitely not fun you kind of feel it every time you kind of accelerate or make a cut or make a sharp move of any kind. And just dropping back would probably do that.
So just for my sort of clarification, so it's a bone bruise because how? Because he didn't land on it. How is it a bone bruise?
Again, now I'm no doctor.
Right.
Let me proclaim
really
this. But what happened when I tore mine, I don't know if Aaron shared your story, because you may have the same as mine. When I tore mine, I tore mine on a swing. I was swinging a baseball bat. It was in a high school game.
Okay.
And the doctor said what likely happened was when the ligament snapped, it snapped against the bone. And the snapping of the ligament against the bone is what bruised the bone. So, but Andy didn't tear any ligaments as far as we know. So I don't know.
Right.
Which I'm asking the same question is how did it bruise if nothing snapped in his knee? So I feel like that's part of the reason why I think he's not going to play this week, because I think there's more going on there than we know. I think there is the information is too incomplete right now to make any sense.
Yeah.
It would be just like the Bears to hide this from everybody and not really do anything to appease the masses. So I think there might be a little more going on there, but we'll see. But no matter what, if you're going to Fields, he should not come out.
Okay. So if we're talking about Bearsy things to happen, what would be the odds on the Bears going with Nick Foles over Justin Fields? Because he's more experienced.
I don't like next game.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. I put those odds at 0.5%.
Very good. All right. It is the Bears, though. You got to leave room for the absurd. But I just had to throw that out there. But yeah, you can see them making the rationale for it, because that's the whole reason why Dalton's playing.
Yeah.
He's more experienced, but Dalton's much better than Nick Foles, without a doubt. Yeah.
I don't know what you had next on the agenda, but I figured maybe we can give a quick synopsis of Fields himself in that game.
Yes. So from my perspective, after watching that game, he looked like a developing quarterback. Mm-hmm. He had some nice flash plays. He showed some good command. He also showed a lot of rookie stuff, those 2 false start penalties for the same exact thing. Not having that under control, not seeing the defender drop back in coverage and then having that pick. That was a concern. But I also, when he was trying to make throws, The one you could say to Darnell Mooney, whether or not he should have had that one because his hands were near it and he could have touched it, I'm not so sure. That one was up high and it was coming hard and fast. So throw that one out. But the one to Allen Robinson in the end zone, and it just goes through his hands, is inexcusable by the veteran, number 12. But that could be a touchdown in Justin Fields' ledger there, and then that game could look markedly different. So from that standpoint, I think overall, I think his performance yesterday was a net plus.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter, somebody did the crunch the numbers and said if everything else stays the same and Robinson just catches that pass,
yeah,
his quarterback rating jumps from like 23 to like 80 or something like that. Man. Which number one, that goes to show you that quarterback rating is a flawed stat. Don't put stock in that. I've always thought that. Yeah. And number two, and the cause and effect of that would probably be Fields probably never throws that pick because they probably don't need to pass to extend the game. And then his rating is probably like 100 something.
Well, so I've heard that same thing too. Yeah. They throw the touchdown pass, then there's no need for Fields to like throw the pass. Yeah. Play collector doesn't want to run the ball though, and then he'll do something stupid.
And also the fact that they still won the game, I'm kind of happy that happened because now it's a lot easier to have a nice opportunity for a learning moment after you win the game than when you lose it.
Right.
So now Justin Fields is going to remember the next time it's a 3rd and long and they send the house that he can't just lock onto the guy coming over the middle on the hot route, and he has to be wary that, hey, maybe this is okay to take this sack in this situation rather than to throw something blindly. So it's an opportunity. What it turns into now is an opportunity that he has a chance to learn from it. So
I don't think either one of us thought that he would go through the season being error free. He is going to learn. He's going to develop. All the rookie quarterbacks, no matter what their pedigree is, learning at the NFL level is tough. But that's the whole point of it. You got to put him in these situations for him to learn. And the more he's sitting on the bench watching, that's not learning. He has to be on the field to see the speed of the game, how things react, how to read and react, and then how to game plan, how to look at film. What's the scheme going to be? So all those things you need to do, and he needs to be playing in order to do that. He needs the reps with the ones in practice in order to develop the consistency.
And again, I'm not expecting perfection by any means, like you said, but now assuming let's operate under the assumption that Dalton's out and Fields gets every rep this week.
Yeah.
Now he's going to be, he's going to be the guy driving the bus during the week, and he's going to be the guy learning the entire game plan and all kinds of stuff that I would imagine it's a lot easier to do that than to come in cold.
Yeah.
This isn't a guy who's used to coming off the bench. This is a guy who's the player of the year in the Big Ten, guy who probably was a top quarterback in high school. It's not like this guy ever comes off the bench ever, like in his career.
Right.
So it's not something he's used to. So but
that was the case in Georgia before he transferred to Ohio State.
I would expect that he is a little smoother and cleaner coming into the game from the first drive rather than in the middle of due to injury.
No, I would agree with that. Because you'll have a better understanding of the game plan too, and like what it is they want to accomplish instead of these. Because it did feel like he had to perform the Andy Dalton offense yesterday.
Yeah.
So a lot of pocket passing and where I want to see growth, not only from Fields, but from Nagy, is to take advantage of Justin Fields' abilities. And Dan Bernstein used this term, and I agree with it. It would be malpractice if they don't devise the offense to fit the talent of the quarterback.
Yep.
Otherwise, why do you draft him?
Yep, 100%. And I think if they do that, you're going to see, 2 or 3 of those wow plays in a game. Yeah. I think he had, I wouldn't call it a wow play, but that scramble on 3rd and 9 was a gigantic play that only he could probably make, like
Right.
on the Bears. He's the only guy who would have been able to do that. Like Andy Dalton doesn't do that,
Right.
And that pass that Robinson dropped in the end zone, that was a heck of a throw. Like
Right.
Andy Dalton can't make that throw. That's a 35-yard strike to the back corner of the end zone, right in the breadbasket of the receiver. Like Mitch Trubisky couldn't make that throw. So I think you're going to see a full game of that and a full week of a game plan. I think you're going to see 2 or 3 of those plays where you're like, wow, this guy's really good. So that's why I'm so amped to see it, even through the growing pains and whatnot. And this is kind of what I was telling my dad this yesterday. Andy Dalton is fine. Andy Dalton will probably be fine.
Yeah.
Bottom line with the Bears offense is they will not be explosive until Justin Fields plays. He's the only guy on the roster that can take them from, okay, this guy can run the system to, all right, this offense has some explosiveness to it now. Like Andy Dalton's not going to do that. And that's something against him. That's just not who he is.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
The other thing with that, and part of what Fields' growth is there's an obvious disparity between time of release between Dalton and Fields. Although I have to say, as the game progressed, I felt Fields got better at that, even though it was smaller sample sizes. But part of that could be just the energy of the game and the intensity and that it got close. But I did see at least some slight improvement in him not hanging on to the ball, because early on, one of the things that has been listed as his weakness is to just taking too long and holding on to the ball and not looking for an outlet or just getting rid of it. So that's something that there was some slight improvement as the game went on, and hopefully that builds up and is kind of in his head as he goes into Cleveland.
I didn't feel like that was an issue for him yesterday. I felt like it was.
Oh, I thought so. In when he came in the second quarter there, whenever it was, beginning of third, I still saw some of that.
I think it was more decision making and ball security. Like he's got to learn how to tuck that ball down a little quicker. That's how the fumble happened. Now credit to him for wrestling for that to get it back. I always, whenever I see situations like that, I think back to Cam Newton in the Super Bowl. You remember that?
Where
it was kind of like a similar play. He kind of just stood there, didn't scared of football. So kudos to Fields for jumping on that to kind of really save a bad situation there. But
well, Newton probably thought he'd be back in the Super Bowl, another time. So no worries, right?
Aaron asking a good question right now. The O-line again this game, I thought did, aside from Mustafa, who I think struggled a little bit, I thought the O-line played really well. I did. I thought they, for them, I think, and I tweeted this out in my little thing. I thought both tackles had nice games. Fetty's had 2 nice games in a row. And I'm not expecting this offensive line to be good. But, if they can be average like they've been the last 2 weeks, I think that's a lot better than any of us kind of expected. So yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised that they have been average.
Well, I guess I got 2 responses for Aaron on that. Number one, I think the fact that they were intact was more out of necessity because there just isn't a whole lot of depth there. So now the performance-wise, I thought the tackles did better in game 2 versus game 1. Mustafa had some troubles. James Daniels didn't have a great game, I thought, either. So, which is concerning because it's the interior of the line you're supposed to have more confidence in. You don't hear Cody Whitehair's name. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
He's doing his job. But you're right. It was Mustafa and Daniels maybe not having the best game there. Maybe they'll both bounce back against Cleveland. But it is a good point, though, that they were able to win, and the line wasn't anything that was like a death knell to the team by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and the Bengals, people say, oh, they played the Bengals. They put a lot of money in that defensive line. They went out and signed Hendrickson. They went out and signed, I forget the other name, DJ Reader. They went out and signed 2 guys who had a nice sack yesterday. He beat Mustafa on the one play. I'm sticking out in my head. But They put a lot of money into that line, and they gave the Vikings all sorts of problems last week.
Right.
And the Bears, by and large, Bears offensive line did a decent job versus them. So I'm pretty encouraged. I'm encouraged by what they've done up front these first two games. And I'm not expecting the offensive line to be a strength of the team, but if it can just not sink them, it hasn't sunk them. So if they can kind of play at this level, consistently all season long, I think you got to be pretty happy with that, considering what we have thought, what we thought they were going to look like heading into the year.
Right. All right, let's shift our attention to the other side of the ball. The defense shows up. Did they hear the noise? And the noise being all the chatter, excuse me, after week one, in which, a lot of people, including myself, thinking that this defense is past its prime. Some of the key players are past their prime and they're just not effective anymore. Well, they showed up yesterday. You saw some push from the front line. The linebackers active. Roquan Smith being Roquan Smith, but the secondary doing some things too, aside from Duke Shelley, which is a scary proposition. Our nickel situation is bad.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I hear Buster Screens on the street, so I would take him back in a heartbeat.
I would take him back. The next guy I kind of want to see them try. I feel like, and this is I have no, I don't know if this makes sense or if this is a position that would work for him, but I feel like Houston Carson's around the ball when he's on the field all the time. And I know he's like a special teams ace for them.
Yeah.
I'm thinking why not try him at nickel? He can't be worse, right?
Right.
Well, I wonder if you see something like that. Maybe they drop Deion Bush down there, or just someone that's been around a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think there's no way they're going to sit there and look at that and be like, oh, well, Duke Shelley's the answer. There's no way they're going to do that. He was inactive week one for a reason.
Right.
I think they had a feeling something like this might happen, but it was so bad in LA that they had to do something. So
right.
I think
and it didn't get any better.
Yeah. It is going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But who I think heard the noise more than anybody was probably Eddie Jackson.
Ejax, huh?
Yeah. He had a great game. Thought he had a great game. He was around the football. He forced the fumble. He made a great, I forget who it was. I think it was on Jamar Chase, or it might have been Joe Mixon. He made a great open field tackle at one point, which I'm like, oh my God, Eddie Jackson making an open field tackle. What's this?
Yeah.
But he played like an impact, high paid player in that game.
Someone brought some stat up in Twitter. I'll have to go back and see it again. But something to where he was like the third ranked safety in terms of run defense. Which is great because the knock against Jackson is he avoids contact if at all possible. And if you're going to be effective in run defense, you can't be that way. So, and he did make some nice plays, not only the, stripping the ball, knocking the ball out, but making some plays on stopping the run and putting his body in there. You're right. He definitely did hear the noise. And I don't know if that came from Sean Desai. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's very, Jackson is very active in social media, and he probably saw a lot of that too. It could be a combination of things, but he definitely looked like a different player, right?
Maybe listen to PrimeTime Sports last week.
Well, who doesn't?
But I saw that Sean Desai got the game ball for that win.
Really?
And good for him, because I thought he had a great game. I thought we sat here on this show last week and said, well, now we're going to really see what kind of coordinator he is. How can they adjust to the, the disaster that was the Rams game? And they came out and they adjusted great. I thought they were a lot more creative with blitzing and sending pressure. It wasn't all the front four did, or the front three in this scheme, I guess, did great, but it wasn't all them. They did a lot of things. They did a lot of stunts to get guys freed up. They had the Roquan had the sack coming on a blitz. They did a lot of things to kind of create that pressure. And I think that's what we saw Vic Fangio do back in 2018.
Right.
Was they would dial up a lot of creative things to kind of get the pressure going and free up Mac and free up some of the other guys. And they did that yesterday. I mean, that was that was a very well coached game, I thought, defensively, to kind of springboard that pressure that they got. And we've been saying it all year long or all offseason long. This defense is going to go as far as the pressure takes them because
it will.
The secondary, while we can sit here and talk about Bill Dorr looks fine, and I saw a Pro Football Focus, according to them, Jalen Johnson's the number one corner for 2 weeks in the NFL. You take that with a grain of salt, but they're playing well, but the strength of this defense is the front seven, and if they don't get pressure, this defense is not going to be good.
Well, take it with a grain of salt, but he's played against some very good receivers in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
So
I didn't mean that as in like that doesn't mean anything. It's just this defense is
he's built a reputation.
Yeah.
And part of it is his reputation being effective. The other thing is there's other places you can pick in the Bears secondary. You know? So you're right. Take it with a grain of salt.
I think half the reputation is he's good, and half the reputation is Duke Shelley's the nickel.
That's right.
I think
right.
And that nickel is going to be that problem is not going away.
No.
Like this one Bear game, it's before we throw, your phrase you use, before we throw bouquets of roses at the defense here, like that's still a problem. It was a problem last game. It was a problem the first game, and it's going to be a problem next week.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a problem until they somehow find a way to fix it.
Well, but the problem it doesn't go away, but the problem can be masked if you're getting pressure up front, because that's how the turnovers happen. They were getting pressure. That's how the turnovers happen. That and Joe Burrow just like, I'll throw it here, So it's a combination thing. When the Bears were going well defensively, when the secondary was going well defensively, it was in concert with what's happening up front. If they're not getting anything up front, you're not seeing those plays. So those things have to happen in order for any secondary to be effective. And we saw that. So you're right. Credit to Sean Desai. That was what, everyone was expecting, was him to put his impact players in a position to make impact plays. And that's definitely what yesterday was about. I still think there's something wrong with Khalil Mack. He comes off the field like way too often, even more than in the past. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what type of injury it is. And, he's just not the same guy, but he got to the quarterback yesterday. Look, Mack and Quinn both got to the quarterback yesterday. So that's like a victory in and of itself. But now let's see it week in and week out, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And
hey, thanks, Aaron. We appreciate you tuning in. I know you got to run there, but appreciate you tuning in and providing comments. Have a great one, man. We'll see you on the next show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
But, this Browns game is going to be a test because the Browns offensive line is one of the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
So finding a way to get pressure against this offensive line is going to be a bit more difficult this week on the road and versus a better front for the Bears.
Yeah. Good thing is it's a day game. It's a noon start, so they're not worried about going in terms of like prime time or anything like that, embarrassing themselves.
And while we're kind of rolling into that game now, I'm not going to pick the Bears to win,
right?
But to put in perspective of kind of what I'm thinking, the last number I saw was Browns were given 7.5. I like the Bears to cover. I think the Bears are going to keep that game close. I got a good feeling about it. I think the weaknesses of the Bears defense, which is the nickel and the back line, maybe with if Eddie and Deshaun Gibson don't make any plays back there, those are weaknesses of the Bears defense. And the Browns are going to be without Jarvis Landry. Right. They still don't have Odell Beckham back. Their receiving core is very banged up. Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, but he's also a guy where if you can get some pressure, he'll make some mistakes. They're a run-first offense, and I think the Bears' defense is built more around stopping the run. So I think their style of offense, I think, matches up better for the Bears. Now, granted, the Browns do it really well. So the Browns could still go out there and run for 150 yards.
Right.
Because that's what they do.
Right.
But I think that this matchup is not a bad one for the Bears. I think I could see a scenario where the Bears are in this game, even though the Browns are a really good football team. I'm not really looking into the almost losing to the Texans. That felt like a little bit of a trap game to me. Like they just played the Chiefs. They come home versus a team that's supposed to be terrible, and they slept walk through the first half. It's kind of what happened. But I think the Bears are going to be in this game. I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going to pick the Browns just because I think the Browns are the better football team and they're better coached. But I don't hate this matchup for the Bears. I think they're going to be in this thing.
You know what helped this matchup? Don't know if it's going to happen, but if Eddie Goldman can return.
Yes.
Again, you talk about the running game of the Browns. That would be another anchor to have in that line to really make that defense effective against the run.
Yeah. This is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and those guys. That team can run the football.
Yeah.
They are a throwback offense. And their Baker is going to make plays based off of what those guys do. So if you could stop the run and kind of force Baker to make some tough decisions, I think that'll go well for the Bears. And offensively, I feel good. If Fields is playing, I feel good. I feel better than if Dalton were to, because I know that explosive ability is there.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens with that. But I don't know if you're kind of thinking the same thing as I am, but I got a feeling there. I'm going to say the Browns win by like 5 or something like that.
Yeah, I just don't think the Bears are there just yet. I think it'll be like an 8-point defeat or something like that. But I wouldn't mind it if they're only lose by 5. I'd love it if they win the game, but I don't think that's going to happen. But if they make it competitive, that's a good sign, because all signs point to the Bears getting run out of the field on when the schedule came out, and you knew you were playing Cleveland. So if they can hang with the Browns and make it close, and who knows, that'd be a feather in their cap, but we'll see.
And another thing with the field aspect, if I remember correctly, I think the Browns struggle with their defense with mobile quarterbacks. I know Tyrod Taylor played well.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, I think, played well versus them both times last year. I know they lost the one game in Cleveland where Lamar had to use the bathroom. Remember that?
That's right.
But Lamar, they didn't lose because of Lamar. Lamar, lit up the world in that game, and they just let up 50 points. That's why they lost.
Yeah.
So I think that bodes well for Fields, seeing that Cleveland has had some issues with quicker quarterbacks in the past, last season. So
we'll see. All right. Well, let's so that'll wrap it up for our Bears talk. Let's finish things off with White Sox chatter over there. White Sox, when will they clinch? We threw that up again last week. You said Tuesday. I said Thursday of this week. And with Cleveland, are they still losing in game 2 there?
I will pull that up right now. I've sort of been following the Sox as we've been having the show here. I had it up, and then I get into the conversation, so I kind of.
Oh, so you're paying attention to the show. I appreciate that.
Yes, yeah. I am. So, so the Indians lost this afternoon.
All right.
So that dropped the magic number down to 3. The Sox are tied right now in the 5th. If you're taping that game, I'm sorry.
I am, but that's okay. There's 162 of them.
Sox are tied in the 5th, and Kansas City is beating Cleveland in the 4th, 2-1 in game 2.
Wow.
So magic number, it could be at 2 or 1 here.
Depending on what happens.
And then that will line right up with my prediction that they clinch tomorrow, if that were to be the case. And I also saw that the White Sox game tomorrow has been moved to 12:10.
Really?
I just saw that a little bit ago due to inclement weather forecast later in the day in Michigan.
Inclement weather is like cash considerations. It's always around.
So not only did the White Sox clinch in 05 in Detroit, they also clinched on a weekday afternoon game in 05 in Detroit.
That's right.
And I remember that because I didn't fake. I was homesick from school the day they clinched.
Uh-huh.
And I remember my dad was home and I was watching it. I had a TV. I had a little tiny TV in my bedroom, and I was watching it in my bedroom, in between naps, because I was just out. And so, and I remember it was a weekday afternoon. So, and it happened in Detroit. So I think history is just trying to repeat itself. And the MLB say, you know what, let's make this really like '05 and let's make it in the afternoon.
Yeah. Can we play Boston in the first round too?
Yeah.
That would be nice. It's funny you said like you were sick and bad watching them clinch. True story. I think I might have told you this before. Bears, the only Super Bowl they were in, or that they won, I should say. I was at Illinois State in my dorm room, sick as a dog. Just watching the game, bad flu or whatever. And I watched the Bears win the Super Bowl, kind of like on my deathbed, from a flu or whatever. So it's like I enjoyed it, but it was unreal that, here's this biggest moment for the franchise that I love and follow. And that was that, it was unbelievable.
You always remember the games when you're sick for some reason. I can remember some Bear games. I remember the New Year's Eve Bear game where Rex threw like 2 picks in like the span of 30 seconds. You remember that?
Yeah.
I was sick. I was sick as a dog during that game, so that made it even worse.
That didn't help it, right?
So yeah, it's always kind of funny. But anyway.
Hey, by the way, the Lions are beating the Packers right now also.
Oh, great. There we go.
Yeah, it's early, but still.
Yeah. I believe my father-in-law in our family text group today, bold prediction, that the Lions making the playoffs if they win. He said he's a big Lions.
Okay.
Fan, so.
Yeah. All right. So basically, he's just as crazy as Bears fans.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, it could be worse. You could be a Vikings fan right now. So.
Yeah. No, they haven't looked good.
All right, but enough about Bears and football again or whatnot. But when will the White Sox clinch? So again, Tuesday there remains a shot. I put Thursday, so I'll stick with that. I'm not going to change it, obviously, because of the recent trends. But we'll see. But either way, this should be the week that they clinch the division, and then it's about how do you line up that playoff rotation. We could talk about we'll talk about the lineup next week's show. But for this week's show, we want to talk about how do we think that starting rotation should line up, who should go to the bullpen, so on and so forth. So my starter one is Lance Lynn. What say you?
I had a feeling we'd be different. And I think a lot of Sox fans are going to be different here because I think this is one of those things where I feel like the top 3, I feel like there's an argument for all of this. Mm-hmm. I am going Lucas Giolito game 1.
Okay. And why?
A couple reasons. Number one, he had the 2 best pitchers ERA-wise since the All-Star break have been Giolito and Rodon when he's been healthy. Now, granted, Rodon has not had a great night tonight, but that aside. Giolito's got ERA below 3 since the break. He had the one really bad outing versus the Royals, which, of course, I was there. That's probably why it was bad. But he had the one really bad outing, and that kind of ballooned the ERA, and it's still at 2.97. So I think he's pitching great. If you remember, the one outing he had this year versus the Astros, he had the complete game shutout. I remember that was on a Sunday. That was in Chicago. And last year, and I know a different story. I know there was no fans, but he proved that he had the stones on the road in a big playoff game to perform at a high level. So the way you went into the season, think he was going to be a race. He has pitched by and large like one in the second half outside of a start or 2. I feel pretty comfortable pitching him game 1 on the road. I also think he's someone who pitching him on the road in a big game like this might be a little better for him. I think kind of sometimes that home crowd amps him up too much. I think kind of having him on the road is a little bit of a better thing for his psyche. So I like Giolito game 1. Why would you say Lynn game 1?
So I think Lynn, just the veteran presence. I think he's been the Sox most consistent pitcher this year. And I don't think he'll give up the home run ball as much as Giolito. That's my concern with Giolito. And even when he's been pitching well, the things that get him are the home run ball. And Houston can do a lot of that, especially in that ballpark. So that would be my concern. I just think Lynn, as a veteran pitcher, would have a plan of attack, and he wouldn't be phased by the moment. And I'm not saying that Gio would be phased by the moment. He pitched great in the game in Oakland, but I think for game one, it's such a big key. Of course, it was supposed to be a big key last year. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
But still, getting off right in that first game, I think is key. And I think having Lynn do that would then set up the rotation nicely. Because the way things are going right now, then, yeah, I'd probably come back with Gio as the number 2. But Lynn is the number 1 just because of his veteran presence. Just like he's dialed in. He has a game plan. There's not too much to it. I think he would avoid the long ball more so than Gio.
It's interesting you say that because I would go Rodon too.
Really?
I like that because, again, kind of similar reasons to Giolito, I think. And maybe I'm putting a little too much stock into it, but he has had 2 great outings versus the Astros this year, one of them in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And when he is on, granted he's rested, when he's been on, he has been probably their most dominant pitcher in the outings where he has it. Lynn dominates a little more differently than Rodon does. But so if you can get, if Giolito pitches his capability and then you get Rodon out there, different angle, different side, go righty, lefty right off the bat. I like that. And again, he's proven he can beat the Astros. Pitched well enough to beat them twice this year. They lost him one game, 1-0, and then he pitched against them at Chicago and they struck out like 10 or something like that.
Right.
So he's had a lot of success for them this year. And then I go Lynn game 3 because he hasn't, part of it, he hasn't had the success for Houston this year as the other guys. But I feel like Lynn is the opposite of Giolito, where I think Lynn really feeds off the home crowd in a positive way. And I think he is the type of guy, if your backs are against the wall, let's say it's a 2-0 game, he's going to smell blood so you're up 2-0, he's going to smell blood in the water and say, let's sweep it. Mm-hmm. If it's 1-1, I think he's the guy with the stones I want in the rubber game. And if you're down 0-2, I could see him being like, this is my ball. I'm going to will us to a win. Like, I feel like game 3, aside from game 1, game 3 is maybe the next most pivotal, like in kind of in the short series. And I like him in that role. Plus, let's say you get to game 5, he's the type of guy who can probably come out of the bullpen on 3 days rest. So I think I kind of like him in that middle spot in that series. But again, I think this is a really good problem for the Sox to have. Well, granted, as long as there's 2 things I want to see. Number 1 is in some order, those guys are 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to complain about any of that, no matter which way they decide to do it. They've all been really good. I know almost any other team, they would probably be the number 1. So I think it's a great problem to have. Number 2 is that Keuchel doesn't pitch.
Right.
I want to see those 3 guys, 1, 2, 3, would cease game 4, and Keuchel does not pitch. That's all.
So you would go with 4 starters in a 5-game series?
I mean, I think that kind of depends on the situation, right? I think you kind of read the situation. How do the other starters pitch? Are you up in the series? Are you down in the series? I think the fact that it would be at home would make me more comfortable to pitch cease, just because the home and road splits have been so drastic for him this year.
Right.
So I think it kind of depends on the situation, but if you're in a situation where he has to pitch, I'm not necessarily afraid of it. There's going to be a lot worse pitchers pitching in playoff games this year than Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
There will be. Honestly, if Zach Greinke's the 4 for the Astros, I'd rather have – I know he's got experience. Dylan Cease has been better than Zach Greinke lately. Like, every time I'm looking – maybe I'm wrong about this. I feel like every time I look at the Astros, Greinke pitches, they're losing.
The thing is, Cease has the potential to really be lights out. Potential, though. More so, though, he'll throw a lot of pitches. He'll probably be out after 4 or 5 innings, that type of thing. But maybe he'll get his 10 or 11 strikeouts.
When you say potential, that's why I think it's ludicrous if – not the rapper, just like the stupidity.
Luda!
I think it's ludicrous if Keuchel pitches overseas. I think that's the most ridiculous thing ever. Number one, Cease has been better.
Yeah.
Number two, what is the best case scenario for Dallas Keuchel? 6 innings, 3 runs, right?
Yeah.
What is the best case scenario for Cease? He throws a shutout. Like, that's within the realm of possibility.
Potentially.
Yeah. And what's the worst case scenario for both? They both get bombed. Like,
Right.
So why would we, knowing that both guys have probably maybe an equal chance to get bombed, why don't we throw the guy that has a chance to throw the shutouts?
Yeah, you need someone with swing and miss stuff, and that's Cease over Keuchel for sure.
Yeah. Well, like, I don't want to throw a guy whose best case scenario is maybe he gets you a quality start at 6 innings and 3 runs. Like, I don't like that's not the upside. I just don't think the upside is there. So,
all right. So it sounds like our 4 starters the same. Cease, you go with Gio, Rodon, and Lynn. I go with Lynn, Gio, and Rodon, and then Cease in the 4 hole. So we're both going with that. Do we even have Keuchel coming out of the bullpen?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I don't think there's a reason for that.
You might even have more bench players on your roster versus pitchers, at least in that first round, too.
Yep. No, 100%. Maybe you kind of sneak him on there for the ALCS, but I don't think there's a point to having him on the ALDS roster. I think the deeper bench is better. I think you have long options. I'd rather Ruiz has given you length this year. I'd honestly rather have Ruiz in the role than Keuchel.
Right.
I don't care about Keuchel's got playoff experience. Just he doesn't have it as a long reliever. Like
no.
So
Ruiz has been doing it, so at least let someone who's been doing it do it.
So I think, and I just don't a long reliever who throws 89, and rolls ground balls on a good day. I just don't see the upside in that.
Yep.
Well,
no, you're right. You're right. Well, it'll be interesting to see, but like I said, let's hope they clinch this week. Tomorrow would be great. If not, Wednesday or Thursday, but it's going to happen this week, and we'll be happy to see it. And then we'll see what TLR does in terms of the rotation for the regular season and how to give guys some rest and get them ramped up and ready to go for the playoffs. So a lot more to come on that for sure over the next few weeks here. All right, well, that'll do it. Anything else you want to throw in here before we sign it off?
No, I was just going to say with the rest thing, we had a new player on the barking list, Breu.
Really?
He's on the lineup today because they said he was something was barking at him. I saw it. They said. So, but no, it just sounds like a normal day of rest thing for him.
You know what? I didn't realize the new Texas ballpark was AstroTurf or was the turf. I thought because if I'm not mistaken, Minute Maid Field is grass. They have a retractable roof and it's grass. My thought. So the fact that a brand new ballpark is on turf is I find that odd, especially since it is a retractable roof stadium.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the hardest things to do in Texas is grow a lawn. So maybe that's why.
Could be. Could be.
But no, I have no other things. I had the Walter jersey on today.
Very good.
I have like a zillion Bear jerseys over the course of collecting them and whatnot. So I will wear different jersey every time the Bears win. We'll do this year.
All right. Well, I don't have a zillion. I have an Alshon Jeffrey jersey. I think I have a couple of them.
Jeffries?
Jeffries. Yeah. Jeffries, Paris, Jules. And then I have a Willow White 72 jersey, so which is good. But I'll probably keep wearing some of the Southside stuff to keep repping. So we'll keep both teams repped on our show here. The next show will be next Monday at 6:30. We'll have the Cleveland recap, Bears and Browns, and then we'll see where the White Sox are at that point. Hopefully they've clinched, and if not, that could be some trouble. But and then where things are headed with that, and then anything else that pops up from the week that will be here. Luke, good show. And we'll talk to everyone later.
All right, sounds good.